Hey guys, this is Paco Minel back with another episode of Reformat. Reformat is about you and your battle station. This is a show that talks about your setup and ways on how you can further improve it. We got a lot of cool setups this week, so let's get started with episode 7. Setup number 1 is submitted by Kyle from Australia. He loves playing World of Warcraft and CSGO. He's into BMX as well. Right off the bat, we have a very cool functional triple monitor setup here with a great rig and great peripherals. I love the accent lighting that matches his desktop wallpaper, however he lacks cable management underneath those monitors and behind those speakers. His cool rig is rocking an i7-6700K, Gigabyte G1 Gaming GTX 1080, 32GB of HyperX RAM, all inside a Fantex N2 Evolve case. For his peripherals, he's using a Corsair K70 RGB with Cherry MX red switches, Razer Naga on top of a Corsair MM200 mousepad, Logitech Z506 speakers, and a ViewSonic 24-inch monitor, and two BenQ 24-inch monitors for a total of 3 screens. Immediately, I'd get rid of the Logitech Z506 as they don't sound very good. I'd also tidy up those cables. Proper cable management will make this setup look 10 times better. It would be great if he could repaint his walls to match the setup, but overall this is a great setup the way it is now. It can be improved easily by following the tips I talked about. Thank you for submitting your setup, Kyle. Setup number 2 is submitted by Ivan from Chicago. He's a US Army soldier who's a tech enthusiast and YouTuber as well. This is an amazing looking setup with a beast of a PC and an awesome curved monitor at its core. Cable management is on point, peripherals are on point, and I love how he displays the component boxes neatly on a shelf above his setup. Definitely goes to show how much of a tech enthusiast he is. His rig is rocking an i7-7700K, 16GB of G-Skill RAM, and an EVGA GTX 1070, all inside a sick looking AeroCool P7C1 case. For his peripherals, he's using a Samsung CF791 curved monitor, which looks awesome by the way, Xbox One controller, Logitech C920 webcam, Mechanical Eagle Z77 keyboard, beautiful tech LED mousepad, and a Giantex racing chair. Taking a look at this setup, I really wouldn't change much as it looks great the way it is. But I did notice that he doesn't have any speakers, so I would suggest adding some compact speakers to fit underneath the monitor. Maybe a sound bar would work well in your case. I'd also hide the Wi-Fi router as it's not aesthetically pleasing and it doesn't need to be visible. Other than that, this is already an amazing setup. Thank you for submitting your battle station, Ivan. Setup number 3 is a resubmission from Thomas of England. He's a college student who's passionate about design and technology. At first glance, you'll notice this awesome looking room with a cohesive theme all throughout. This is also very interesting because for the first time we'll get to see how a setup has improved since the last time they were featured on the show. Obviously this setup has improved a lot since episode 1. I'm loving the frame posters all around, and the wireframe decor really makes a good use of that wall without making it look too cluttered. His setup is powered by an Asus laptop and a PlayStation 4, really simple components there with tons of great peripherals. An Asus 24-inch monitor, HyperX cloud gaming headset on a headphone hanger, Logitech G402 Hyperion Fury mouse, and a DB Power mechanical keyboard. Thomas did a lot of cool DIY work, the way he mounted his Logitech speakers and Star Wars figurines above his setup, and I really love it when people think of great cost-effective and creative ways to improve their setup, so this is a great example of that. We can definitely learn a thing or two from this battle station. His room isn't that big, but he maximizes space very well without making it look cluttered. The blue accent lighting is a great contrast to his gray wall as well. Overall, an awesome setup transformation that I can't get enough of. This definitely looks awesome the way it is right now, and it wouldn't change anything. Great job on your setup, Thomas, and thank you for submitting for the second time around. Setup number 4 is submitted by Joey. He's a tech enthusiast who loves biking and hiking as well. Right off the bat, we got a lot going on here. A quad monitor setup, the most number of monitors ever submitted to the show. Now, I'm a big fan of multi-monitor setups, but the problem about multi-monitor setups is that it's usually messy. This looks a bit too cluttered for my taste. With the keyboard and mouse to the side, I'm not sure how functional this setup is right now. His rig is rocking an i7-6700K, Zotac GTX 1080 amp edition, 16GB of RAM inside an NZXT S340 case, which I like very much. For his peripherals, he's using a Logitech G710 keyboard, Logitech G403 Prodigy wireless mouse, Sony 5.2 speakers, a couple Asus monitors, one Samsung monitor, and an LG TV. I love his retro consoles on display on the shelf to the left of his setup, but there's just way too much going on here. Too much stuff cramped into this small space. He attempted to manage his cables, but it still is lacking. First thing I would do would be to move the keyboard and mouse in front of his monitor instead of it being on the side. I'd put the computer case on the floor to free up space on the desk. I also can't see his speakers, so I'm assuming it's underneath the desk, which isn't optimal at all. Bottom line, great peripherals and a lot of potential here, but you need to free up space on your desk and move stuff around, because it's just not working the way it is right now. Looking forward to seeing further changes to this setup. Thank you for submitting your setup, Joey. Last but not the least is setup number 5 submitted by Alex from Florida. He's a college student who loves video games, hip-hop, and works part-time in IT. We got a very plain looking setup here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is lacking a bit of personality. He did a great job of managing cables underneath his desk, but he still needs to work on cables underneath his monitors. His rig is rocking an AMD FX 8320 R9 290 GPU, 16GB of RAM, all inside a Corsair Carbide 200R case. For his peripherals, he's using an Acer monitor, a Dell monitor, CM Storm Quickfire with brown switches, Steel Series Revel 300 mouse on top of a Steel Series QCK mousepad, NVX XP-T100 headphones, and an Antlion microphone. First thing I would do to improve this setup is to replace those old speakers into something better. Anything would probably sound better than those. Next, I'd get a headphone hanger to mount the headphones so it doesn't take up space on your desk. And then I'd manage the cables underneath his monitors. Lastly, I'd add some accent lighting to add some color to the white walls and maybe some framed posters to add some personality to the setup. This is another setup with a lot of potential that can be easily improved by following the tips I talked about. Thank you for submitting your setup, Alex. There you have it, guys. The 5 setups of Reformat episode 7. My favorite setup this week is setup number 3 submitted by Thomas of England. I just love the overall theme of his room and how much it has improved since he submitted his setup back in episode 1. Great job, Thomas. To everyone else watching, if you want to get featured on the show, as long as you have a setup, submit your high-resolution photos to reformatsetups@gmail.com. Don't forget to include a short personal introduction. That wraps up this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, I'm your host, Paco Manel, and I'll catch you in a future video.